Curtis Stone wasted 3 years and thousands of dollars on irrigation that didn't work. A single $1,000 conversation could have saved him all of that. Here's why the right mentor is the best investment for a young entrepreneur. I'm Diego, D-I-E-G-O, and welcome to the Urban Farmer Rewind. This is Season 1, Week 23. Curtis Stone, at the time when we were recording this podcast, The Urban Farmer, was doing really well in an urban environment. He was one of the most successful North American urban farmers, but didn't mean he didn't fail. It didn't mean he didn't have problems. And in this episode, we talked about one of the problems that he had. And in this one, he talked about how much money he'd lost making mistakes, how much mistakes cost him, both in terms of time and money, and why in hindsight, he'd gladly pay money to avoid those costs and mistakes. And I can tell you from running my own business for the past 10 years, it's very true. When you're young, when you're new to business, whether that's a young entrepreneur or literally young in age, you don't know everything. And it's good to make mistakes and learn from them. But if you can avoid them and save yourself the costly time and money mistakes, sometimes avoiding those can be well worth what you pay to not have them happen in the first place. So let's talk about this. It all started when Curtis tried to follow irrigation advice from spin farming books that he was learning to farm from. The problem was the person who wrote those books lived in a completely different biome or area than Curtis did. So for 3 years, he bought equipment, tested stuff, it failed, bought it again, tested stuff, it failed. Here's a little of what he had to say about that experience.
Those things that Spin wrote about, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Wally is in a totally different climate than me, but there's things that Spin wrote about in their books, like ways to do irrigation and stuff that I tried, and I wasted probably 3 years of screwing around with irrigation, and it was a huge waste of resources on my end, time and money.
3 years, not weeks, years of daily frustration on something as basic as watering your farm.
If I would have just talked to somebody who really knew at the beginning and paid for their time, I would have saved thousands of bucks on irrigation. I have piles of crap that I will never use again. In fact, I just gave most of it away to a guy in the neighborhood who's a really avid gardener. He asked me if I wanted to sell it, and I was like, just have it, man. I didn't care at this point.
He ended up giving the equipment away. He didn't even try and sell it, but the financial loss was just the beginning.
It's horrible. I had times that I was so burnt out that I was like, not kidding you, in the fetal position in my underwear on the floor of my living room crying because I was so burnt out and so defeated and felt like nothing was going right.
So here we have someone very successful. Curtis Stone at the time was at the top of the farming world on the small scale. He was doing really well. And here he was brought to his proverbial knees by a preventable mistake. This was the real cost of not finding mentors and just going from very basic resources that might not apply to his situation. It was at that time that Curtis discovered another farmer named Paul Suter, a young farmer running an urban farm by bicycle. Curtis cold emailed him, and Paul ended up giving him hours of his time.
He had the time for me. He took the time for me, and I'm forever grateful for him because he talked to me on a couple occasions for a few hours, and I recorded the conversation, and I made notes, and I had a list of questions when I talked to him.
Notice Curtis's approach. Prepared questions, recorded everything, wasn't going to waste the opportunity.
There was a lot of just really nuanced things. It was like, do this and don't do this kind of thing. Like he had specific things like, okay, this is the kind of trailer you should, don't do this. And these are all things that I learned and definitely developed. Just having those little tidbits and you make notes on them and you go, oh yeah, okay, he just saved me a month of screwing around. And that's the whole benefit of mentors in general.
One conversation, 1 month saved, Multiply that across an entire farming season. Early on, Curtis discovered that not all information was created equal. Think of it in terms of grades. Blog posts and forums, that's often low grade because anyone can write them. And just because you can write it doesn't mean you actually know what you're writing about. Books and courses, mid grade, often good, but they can be outdated. And again, is the person doing the teaching actually qualified to do the teaching? Active practitioners succeeding right now, that's the one you want to target. It's pure gold. Go after them.
If you can source high-grade information, it's the number one thing that will fast-track your success, hands down. High-grade information comes from people who are in the field doing it. That's high-grade information because they're on the cutting edge, because they are in the marketplace, they're experiencing and they're dynamic and they're doing it. And so that's where you want to learn from it. Go to the people that are doing it and figure out what they're doing, learn from them, pay them for their time, and fast track it.
The closer your source is to actually doing it successfully today, the higher the grade of information. And that's the goal here. You're seeking out as high of grade of information as you possibly can. And Paul wasn't the only one. Curtis ended up building a circle of mentors, some farmers, some not, each of who filled a gap. There was John who taught seed saving, Bob who taught orcharding, but most importantly, a woman named Gwen Steele who taught about life balance. The key here is your mentors don't need to be doing exactly what you're doing. They just need to be successful at solving problems. Curtis talked about focusing on the critical 20% that gave 80% of the results.
So if you want to learn a language really quickly, you really only need to learn 20%. You really only need to learn the stuff that's the most common phrases to speak just to get rolling, to get into production. And that's exactly how my farm works too, is get into production quickly, just get some cash flow going. And then that's going to leverage your experiences because you're going to be out doing it, you're in the field learning, but you're also got cash flow.
Same with farming. Get the critical pieces right. What generates cash flow? Then refine through experience. Curtis's mentor strategy was simple. First, identify successful people. Second, offer value. You can offer to help on their farm while you're learning. Third, come with specific questions. Fourth, give back whenever you can.
And I was able to return the favor for him because I had learned a lot and I helped him with his farming later on too. So there's definitely a give and a take there.
Here's the math that Curtis laid out.
Our online course costs almost $1,000 US. And that might seem like a lot of money to people, but if you think about starting a farm and screwing around for 3 years, you spent more than $1,000, I guarantee you.
Ask yourself, what's one mistake that you're making right now that a mentor could stop instantly? What's the mistake already costing you in terms of money, time, and stress?
If you're not prepared to spend a little bit of money to start a farm, then you might as well not do it. You have to spend money to operate a business.
3 actions you can take away from Curtis's experience. 1, the highest ROI investment is knowledge from practitioners. 1 hour with someone succeeding beats 3 years of trial and error. 2, come prepared. Specific questions, record answers, implement immediately. 3, build a network. Different mentors for different gaps, farming, business, life balance, whatever it is, there's probably somebody out there that can do it really well and help you do it even better in your own context. While this sounds simple, it wasn't something Curtis always did, and it's something that he learned the hard way.
It's funny because I don't think it's common knowledge how important knowledge is. Really investing in quality information is what's going to help you fast track something. Investing in quality information has a pretty quick payoff because trial and error, it sucks. The things that I had the trial and error on my farm, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
So here's your challenge. Identify one person ahead of you on the success ladder. Reach out to them this week, offer to pay for an hour of their time, bring 3 sharp, specific questions, and hopefully that hour can save you a bundle of time. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it saves you a bunch of time, money, and stress in the future. If you want to learn more about the experiences that Curtis talked about in this episode, you can listen to the full episode of Season 1, Week 23 of The Urban Farmer using the link below. Hit the bell, hit subscribe, hit like, do all those things to help the algorithm, and let me know what you thought about this one in the comments below. Always appreciate you all watching, and I hope until next time, you'll be nice, be thankful, and do the work.